Hi, I'm Peter Ryan, Principal Analyst at Ryan Strategic Advisory. Now, one of the reasons I love my job is the opportunity to catch up with some of the best minds in BPO. And today is no exception. I am with Rommel Regino, who is the Chief Operations and Sales Officer at Inspiro. Rommel, great to be with you today.
Thank you, Peter, and really appreciate that we're doing this chat in this nice historic place.
Well, history is what it's all about. I'm a student of history, as I know you are too, whether it's world history, whether it's BPO history. And there's been a lot that's happened in the last few decades that you and I have been involved in this industry. But let's talk about the history that's going to be made, Rommel, because there's a lot of things that are on deck right now. And if we can start out with how enterprises are evolving in terms of their needs for CX. You know, one of the things that I've picked up on over the years is that there's a tremendous amount of interest amongst the enterprise community, amongst the buy side, to try and leverage BPOs when it comes to the areas in customer management they're having trouble with. From your perspective, when you're interacting with the captive CX operators that are looking to work with Inspiro, what are some of the key challenges they're facing in 2024, and how do you think these are going to evolve?
Yes, to your point, over the 2 decades, Peter, there's a lot of changes and evolutions that had happened in the customer experience space. And now our clients are truly understanding what it takes to make sure they deliver that highest CX. And there are 3 things I'd like to point out.
Sure.
First one is they're now understanding that loyalty is really big, worth the investment rather than acquiring new customers.
Yeah.
Number 2, in the advent of these available technologies now, how they're able to leverage this in terms of providing really the highest customer experience that again translates to better loyalty. And then the third one is how do we protect the data that is being brought, and when their customers engage with them, and making sure that those data are really secured. Trust is very important now when they do business, and that's, I think, the third most paramount importance when we speak of CX.
Rommel, I'm going to touch on that third point because I think it's very important. Information security is vital. It's crucial right now. And as you know, every year Ryan Strategic Advisory conducts a survey of 750 enterprise CX decision makers from 11 different demand markets. Consistently, information security, data protection comes out as the number one pain point based on the research we do. It's also the number one internal investment priority amongst captive operations. And when enterprises are looking for a BPO, their ability to drive the best practices in information security is usually the number one factor that they're looking for in a partner. So as we talk a little bit about data protection and information security, what do you see as what Inspiro is bringing to the table in this regard to help organizations ensure that the end user information is as locked down and as secure as possible?
Yeah, Inspiro truly recognized that this is the new currency.
Yeah.
So we take really high importance of it, not just from a process perspective, but also from an investment perspective as well. And that's what we tell our clients. If there's one thing that needs to be saved, security systems is definitely in that list, because we truly value the information, the data privacy. And what we also offer, and something that we share with our clients, is that you can also leverage on these data security systems that we invest on, which also brings very good value to them because they don't need to put this so much into their budgets.
And I want to touch on something else that we're finding is very important with regards to the enterprise buying set, and that comes down to the digitization of CX. Now, Rommel, going back to our couple of decades in the industry, as we can allude to, as we've talked about earlier, something that strikes me is the extent to which it's changed from maybe in the early 2000s, late 90s. It's no longer your mess for less. It's no longer how many agents and workstations can we shift out of a captive center and move to an outsourcer. Now, what does the outsourcer bring to the table in terms of generative AI, in
Yes.
terms of automation, in terms of analytics, in terms of cloud-based CX services, in terms of knowledge management. From the perspective of the clients you're speaking to or the enterprise CX decision makers you're speaking to, how important is this digital element in terms of choosing an outsourcer and in terms of driving the best customer experience possible?
Yes, speed with amazing customer experience is what our clients are really sprinting on. And that's where I think Inspiro brings value to the table, where we have an amazing integration of the core human, great customer experience to the technology that assists that whole dynamics engaging between our agents and our clients' customers. But what's interesting as well is that, and this can cause quite a heavy investment on client side, which reduces that risk when they partner with Inspiro. They're quite cautious in putting investments because they don't want to be in a technology where tomorrow it will be obsolete. We remove that concern because we establish a proof of concept models, a laboratory that they can really see in action these digital solutions, whether it works for them and truly delivers and creates more loyalty to their customers.
Let's talk a little bit about business continuity, Rommel, and the impact of BCP in terms of buying decisions. One of the big things that I've picked up on over the years is the extent to which looking for an established quality offshore location really de-risks the CX dynamic in many, many different ways. Can you talk a little bit about I would say, the jewel in the crown of Inspiro and the Philippines in terms of how it plays a role in what you're delivering to clients in different parts of the world?
Sure. Inspiro being a global company has always ensured that we have an onshore model, a nearshore model, and an offshore model. And to your point, Philippines is where is our center of gravity. The geographic location and makeup of the Philippines is a perfect, location for business continuity.
Yeah.
And because it's been in the BPO space for more than 2 decades, the maturity is at its highest. With Luzon, which was where many BPOs first set foot, is now in a center of excellence, state. And what it does is that it moves these expertise now into what we call the next tier cities.
Yeah.
These are locations outside of Luzon that creates that natural business continuity plan. Simply because what happens, even at the weather perspective, and the Luzon piece doesn't necessarily affect the rest of the country or the southern part of the country. So that creates that natural business continuity plan. Secondly, the carriers have also realized that this is a very important industry, and they've invested over the last 2 decades making sure that connectivity are in place. So, redundancy and all that.
Yeah.
Multiple carriers on these islands. And finally, which is always a hot topic, is the availability of talent.
Absolutely.
The universities in these locations are quite amazing and very revered, and because of very very good English speaking as well, the abundance of talent are always been there.
And I would be remiss if I didn't point out, Rommel, that in the 2024 Front Office CX Omnibus Survey of 750 enterprise CX buyers from 11 different markets, that the Philippines was ranked the second most favored offshore CX delivery location in the world,
Nice.
out of approximately 45 different countries. So that's a great, great endorsement.
Okay.
Well, there you have it. Some amazing insight from Rommel Regino, who joins us today from Inspiro. Rommel, it's been a fantastic discussion. Thanks very much, and we look forward to our next chat.
I enjoyed this as well, Peter. Thank you.
Thank you.